I want to read from your piece in the Washington Post just to make this even creepier.
Let's not.
Because you actually, did you mirror Putin here? What's going on here?
No, I'd rather not.
Democrats' long road back to hope and change. And Joe writes in part this: progressive road rage is getting in the way of Democratic leaders pulling themselves out of the ditch. Despite 6 years of historic political setbacks, there is little self-reflection from a party that seemed to be on the verge of becoming a permanent majority just 8 years ago, with the 2018 Senate map stacked dramatically in the Republicans' favor and with Democrats unwilling to take a realistic look at their dismal plight. Roosevelt's party could soon find itself in an overwhelming disadvantage. How do Democrats avoid handing President Trump an unbeatable majority on Capitol Hill? They must start by admitting to themselves just how bad things have become. The truth is that Democrats have lost middle America. The political landscape looks grim for the party of Obama and Roosevelt. Its path back to the majority can't be drawn up by a former Republican congressman, but I do know this: the Democratic Party's demise will continue until it stops blaming others for its collapse and instead looks inward at a party that not so long ago defined hope and change.
You know, Mike Lupica, so let's put Hillary Clinton's election aside, and let's just, she won the majority vote. You could talk about Comey, you could talk about Putin, you could talk about a lot of other events. But you and I and the rest of the world were so busy looking at the coming Republican collapse, or at least I'll speak for myself, that we didn't see what was right in front of our noses, which is a Democratic Party that, as Steve Israel said yesterday, lost 1,000 local seats between 2008 and 2012, lost 900 state legislative seats over the same time period, lost 62 House seats, lost 12 Senate seats, lost 10 governorships. They only have 18 out of 50 governorships. This is a party that has collapsed, and nobody is actually sitting down and looking in the mirror.
Joe, the old St. John's basketball coach, Louis Carnesecca, used to talk about things happening in broad daylight, and he used to say they were happening in Macy's window. What happened to the Democratic Party happened in front of our eyes, and everything that we thought was happening to the Republicans was happening to the Democrats.
Isn't that amazing?
And now
we didn't see it.
And now this sounds slightly ageist, but that's okay. You can't expect crypt keepers to get you out of this. And if Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders and Nancy Pelosi are the solution here, then the problem is far more dramatic than we thought.
I started looking up their ages yesterday, and I know that's the part of the op-ed you're talking about, but Nancy Pelosi's 76. I think Bernie's 75. Joe Biden's 74, talking about running when he's 78. He'd be running against the 71-year-old Elizabeth Warren. This is a party of 70-year-olds.
And listen, we just elected
nothing wrong with that.
We just elected a 70-year-old man president of the United. What I'm saying is the Democratic Party, and I'm not buying into this Putin version of the world that you're blaming everybody. There are reasons and excuses for what just happened. But the Democratic Party now has to look at who they want to carry the standard 4 years from now, or even 2 years from now.
I'm not sure it's age, although I think I know what you're getting at there in terms of being out of touch. But Jacob, you spent so much time traveling across every time we looked at you, you're on the back of the motorcycle, you're, in a pub somewhere, on a tractor. But you connected with people and talked to them about this. When they think of the Democratic Party, who are the names that you think they would give me a sense of where the party has gone out in America, where you've been for the past year?
Listen, I would be surprised if the young people that were backing Bernie Sanders this year wouldn't want to see him play in some way.
How about the middle-aged white guys?
So I remember when I was here, and I was sharing a story with you guys from Aliquippa, Pennsylvania. It was a former steel town in the west part of Pennsylvania. And you said at the time, Pennsylvania's been, fool's gold. Who knows what's going to happen out there? Are there enough voters in that western part of the state? These people were Democrats. These people were former Democrats that worked for J&L Steel. They wanted anybody to listen to them. And if it was a Joe Biden, I feel like they felt like that person was listening to them. In North Wilkesboro, North Carolina, at that racetrack. When we went out there, it doesn't matter the age. North Wilkesboro, North Carolina, when we were in Hubbard, Ohio, with the truck drivers driving in the semi-truck. I shared all these stories with you over the course of the year. I don't think people people care. Frankly, I do not think people care about age. I don't think they care if the person is 60, 70, or 80 years old. They just want somebody that's going to listen to them.
Except, I think Joe's right about one thing. I think Obama provided, a young guy like Obama provided tremendous cover
Yes.
for all of the problems and
goodness.
all of the decay that was going on in the Democratic Party. I keep wondering if between now and then there will be a non-Bernie, populist, Midwestern guy who's somehow under the age of 50 who can come out of the Democratic Party.
It could be John Meacham. When I was writing the column yesterday, I couldn't help but be struck by, again, as we said, history, the echoes of history.
Yeah.
And as I was writing all of this, it reminded me of what you and I discussed about all of the columns in the newspapers the day after Goldwater's massive defeat. People talking about the end of the Republican Party for a generation. And yet 2 years later, the Reagan Revolution starts in earnest in California.
Yeah, it was Scotty Reston the day after. Conservatism was dead for a generation in '64. Lyndon Johnson effectively had the same amount of time President Kennedy had. He had about 1,000 days from the election in 64 to a big House loss. I think it was 47 seats, something like that, in '66, and Reagan winning the governorship in California. And of course, the Democrats really knew how to fight Reagan, didn't they? When Pat Brown said to a school kid, you know, Reagan was an actor, and remember who shot Lincoln. You know, they really knew how to make that work. You know, it does begin often in the sea, and I think that one point of those columns too is that, which I think is your point, is we have to be careful about declaring the Democratic Party dead in the way that people declared the Republican Party dead 8 years ago.
You just can't do it because Mike Lupica, Ronald Reagan in 1979 was a joke. I remember my dad seeing Reagan speak in Pensacola. He came home and said, I just saw the next president of the United States. We laughed at him. Barack Obama in 2007. Come on, this guy. His middle name's Hussein. He's never going to be elected president of the United States. Fast forward 8 years later, you can say the same thing about Donald Trump.
Everyone did.
Well, actually, and even Bill Clinton, remember 91? Clinton was one of this, quote, 7 dwarfs. There was no way he was going to win.
The Democratic Party has to do some reevaluation and look at the people who didn't hear a word Hillary Clinton said to them in this election cycle.
Yeah. Jacob, what was your big takeaway from all of your travels across Middle America this year?
Oh, man. I think that, first of all, for me, it was really humbling to be able to get to be the vehicle through which so many people experienced how people feel about this country. I live in California. It's no secret. You guys tease me. We're here in New York.
We tease you for things far different than
I
that.
didn't bring my.
We love California.
Yeah.
I know.
Father's very nice
No,
guy.
it was wearing the Sheila E. gloves. I mean, that was a problem.
Prince, and then we lost Prince, and then I stopped wearing the gloves.
Of course. Well, I think
I think that there's a lot of resentment out there for the fact that we're not listening. And I think that for me, it was a pleasure and a privilege to be able to go out and listen to so many people because they want to be heard, and they were heard by Donald J. Trump.
Did a great job.
All right. Well, listen, thank you so much
Jacob,
for doing that.
Make sure you bow to Father's picture before you go.
always do.
And also, if you will,
Mike,
please say hi to
Mike
Weekend
is
Dad as well.
Yeah, I will,
Okay?
for sure, I will.